There are some ideas when you put any thought into a storyline, they tend to have you eventually saying, screw it, my head's going to explode if I try to justify the plot holes this game will have. At times this has led to pretty good games, while in certain ways it can be a way of saying this is just the beginning of the come. Remember Me is one of those games that if you have played enough games or look into stories in a more realistic manner, it will come off as predictable. Unfortunately, they left the gameplay at home. While I do think it has elements of a really good game, it is a beautiful game to look at and has good game mechanics, the problem is that Remember Me makes one key mistake, and that's it makes me want it to be a lot better game than it is. More on why later. The development has some promise to it. It was developed by Don't Nod Entertainment, published by Capcom, and released on June 3rd, 2013. We all know who Capcom is by now. They're a beloved developer and publisher from the NES era, and have created classic franchises such as Breath of Fire, Street Fighter, and Devil May Cry. Unfortunately, they're a shell of what they used to be, and I won't go into the details on that. Don't Nod Entertainment, on the other hand, is a pretty fresh developer. Since being founded in June of 2008, the Paris, France-based developer has only developed a total of 2 games, with a third, known as Vampire, due out sometime in 2017, currently in development. The only other game they've worked on so far has been the episodic adventure game known as Life is Strange. From my experience, they seem to be good at making cinematic worlds. These games look beautiful and have a ton of work put into them. My only concern is that can this team make a game that's more than a cinematic experience? Because if they can't, they will be exposed as a really good art studio rather than a really good game company. Anyway, let's move on to the plot. The plot is set in the future of 2084. Humans have the technology to fool around with people's memories to help improve others' lives. You could implement positive memories or remove certain triggers to help someone with PTSD. You could implement specific memories to help someone with their memory loss. The options are almost limitless. So when a company has pretty much a monopoly on the technology, guess what someone with enough money can do? If you guess rewrite history to make themselves look good or destroy someone else's life, then go get yourself a cookie. It's your job as Nilan, a revolutionary warrior who has forgotten all of her memories. It's your goal to retrieve them and take down the evil corporation. I've gotten around halfway through the game, and if it plays out the way I think the story's going to play out, then it's been there, done that territory. Graphics are beautiful. Words can only say so much. When you got big screen TV and you can see everything from the textures, the cinematics, to levels themselves, it looks like a top-notch animation studio worked on something that is as close to real life as possible. I can't really say all that much about it other than what you see is what you get. The audio is about as high quality as the graphics. The music feels right at home with any cinematic experience that a movie can provide. Same goes with the voice acting. I think that while the story feels like I've been there, done that experience, the actors add more depth to these characters. You care about their personalities or their motivations for what they do. This puts this on the same level as a game like a Mass Effect as far as voice acting is concerned, as why games like this cost a whole ton of money. The gameplay fundamentally works. It's a fun action platforming game in the style of Prince of Persia or Batman Arkham Asylum, but because of one key decision in the game design, it makes me wish that it was a lot better than it is. You go from level to level, climbing walls, sneaking around drones, and beating up enemies. The level design is good. There's a fair bit of variety to levels, and never did I ever feel like I was dying because of a cheap death trap that I didn't see coming. It's also bolstered by good controls. I played it with a PlayStation 4 controller, and running, climbing, and exploring levels is done with relative ease. Where it starts to get bad is how this game holds your hand like a 5-year-old who's drooling out of the side of his mouth. Every platform has an icon that says go here, then here, and so on. I think it was because you can't see where you can or can't grab onto without it. So instead of fixing this problem, Don't Nod Entertainment was more concerned with pushing the game's story forward, and this is what we got. Another problem is that this game removes any feeling of accomplishment through exploring the game. There are these items in which, if you find enough of them, you can get a health upgrade. The problem is that the game removes this feeling of accomplishment by having these tiny little screens show you exactly where they are. Even when it tries to change it up by having you look for doors to unlock and solve puzzles with newly acquired tools, it auto-locks to where you need to use them on. This completely removes any effort needed to solve puzzles, and thus, if this decision wasn't made, then the rest of the problems in the game wouldn't be as bad. As for the combat, well, it feels like an afterthought. The combat is done fairly well with plenty of options. You unlock weapons along the way like the spammer, but the majority is done with hand-to-hand combat. You get a separate button for kicks, punches, and dodges with a customizable combo system. This is where the game gets even worse and it feels like an afterthought. You have different attacks that give you bonus damage and so forth. Problem is that you can go through the entire game using the same combo and have almost no problem at all with any of the fights. You might need a certain kind of move, but when you do, it feels forced. This makes the entire customization aspect for combos worthless. So what you got is a game that fundamentally works, yet it holds your hand throughout the entire game to try to make up for some of its design flaws, and is so concerned with its story that it forgot to bring a good game. Wow, guys, if you want to make a movie, then go make it. I know that games feel somewhat like interactive movies. The problem is that people tried making interactive movies with the full motion movie era in the 90s. It didn't work then, and it doesn't work here. Overall, Remember Me is just an okay game. It would be a lot better if the game would let me play it without it telling me exactly what it wanted me to do. The story is compelling enough to see, the characters are well written, but the problems mentioned beforehand about the gameplay makes it something I want to watch more than play. It's going for around $30 Canadian, but wait till it goes on sale. There are good elements to Remember Me, but you got to put up with a lot to see them. I give it 5.5 out of 10.